Hey, what's up, guys? This is Guillermo Auto. I'm doing a wheel bearing on a 2004 Toyota Sienna. The method I did this is I took it out of the car, as you can see right here, and I took it to a shop and I got it pressed. So here's my wheel bearing and hub. I got the new bearing in there and the new hub. Like I said, this video is just going to be on how to take this knuckle out and then to take it to a shop and then get a new wheel bearing put in. I recommend a new hub as well, and then just once you got that done, to put it back on the car. So I called around. Some shops will press this for 30, some go up to 100, but this is just how this video is going to be. Alright, thanks. Just go ahead and get your car safely jacked up. On the side you want to do it, we'll go ahead and get this wheel off. It's a 21 millimeter. Go ahead and break these loose. Alright, sometimes they can be kind of tight. And then once I break these loose, I'm going to get my my impact gun and I got a 21 on here so I can zip these off. And when you go to put this wheel back on, make sure you get these really tight. 100 foot-pounds is the spec, I believe. So make sure when you put it back on, you get them really, really tight. Alright, I'm going to take this off. Okay, there's my brake setup. I'm going to go and take my caliper assembly off. I'm just going to take the caliper bracket bolts off and take the whole thing off. There's 17 millimeters. There's 2 of them back here. Go ahead and get these off. And I'll remove this. I'm going to hang it up out the way and so it doesn't stress out the line. So, since we're in the driveway, if you're in a tight spot where you can't get it to come loose, here's a little trick. Take a rag and just hold on to it and then hit the end with a hammer. I wish I had a rubber hammer. I only have this regular hammer, so it's going to ding up my wrench a little bit, but it'll get it loose. And then you hit it, and then you'll be able to get it loose like this. A rubber hammer would be preferred, but if all you got is a regular hammer, then it is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. My little collection over here. Get the bottom one off. I'm gonna hit this too. Alright, this is after I hit it. Now I'm just getting it loose. Alright. Here's the other bolt. Go ahead and put it in the box. And I'm gonna remove this assembly after I get this 12 millimeter off. Just got it loose. Now I'm gonna zip it free. Alright, and I'm just gonna hang this up for now. Just like that with a little bungee. If you hang it up, make sure you really got it secure so it doesn't fall and hit you in the face or something. I'm gonna take my rotor off. If your rotor's stuck, you could run a bolt through these threads and it'll push it off the hub. Go ahead and remove this. And then here's my axle nut. I'm going to spray it for right now to let my penetrant start working its magic. And then when I come back to it in a little bit, hopefully, it'll come off a little easier. It's always a good idea. Just put a little in the hole there and just on the threads. Sometimes these come off okay. Sometimes they're a nightmare. So any help is good. Speaking of that axle nut socket, it's a 30 millimeter 12-point socket if you're dealing with a Toyota axle nut. That's what comes OEM on those. So I had to go pick this up for 20 bucks at Kragen. Alright, so now I'm going to get this clip off. This just pulls off. It's a little plastic clip. Just push it out of its little holes there. Wiggle it free. And then the sensor, the wheel speed sensor, it's a 10 millimeter bolt. Go ahead and get that out. The bolt just comes out and then you just pull the sensor out. Just like that. I'll put the bolt over here. I'm also going to hang this out the way so it's safe. I don't want to damage it in any way. Okay, now I gotta get this tie rod end nut off. You gotta get the that cotter pin out. Just straighten it out and then pull it through the hole. And that's how you get it out. Just like that. I just straightened it out and then pulled it through the hole. And always get a new one when you put your new one in. If you can't, you know, of course use your old one, but definitely try to get a new one in there. Alright, so this is a 17 millimeter. I got it loose. I'm going to take this off. Let's go ahead and get this off of here. There's a little crown nut, so it's easy to remember where that one goes. And then on this, you hit right here with a hammer. Not the tie rod itself, but like this spot right here on the knuckle. And then it'll eventually just kind of pop loose, and you can get it out. It might take a minute if you got like a smaller hammer. Yeah, so I'm gonna I hit it loose already, just like this. You know, just keep going, try to get some good hits in there. Try not to hit the boot or anything, and then you could just pop it free. Also, if you have a pickle fork, you could do it that way too. So I got that loose. Go ahead and do my axle nut, my socket. Yeah, I'm gonna use this breaker bar. So before I do this, I'm going to show you. If you just try to do it like this, you'll run into problems because there's a spot on the nut that has to get nudged up, and it's actually what's keeping the nut. It helps keep it in place. What I'm talking about is right here on the nut. This part is actually pushed down. It's like it's been hit, and it's sitting low in this little valley in the axle end. So you got to take a punch and knock that part of the nut back up. And you can use like a punch. There's tools made specifically for this. I just got like a little Craftsman punch here. It'll do the job. It'll just you know, push the nut back up enough to where I can move it free. So you go in there and you hammer it up like this. You know, you get it to where it's not pinched in anymore. And once it's up, then you could start using your wrench or whatever on it. So I got that off. It came off okay, thankfully. Sometimes, like I said, they're a pain. This is actually, I got it off with just like a short breaker bar, so that's good. And then now I'm going to come down to the lower ball joint. There's 3 17 millimeters down here, so 2 nuts and a bolt. As you can see, the lower ball joint is attached right here, but Toyota did something cool. They made it so where you can just disconnect it from the lower control arm. That saves a lot of grief. So we'll go ahead and get these off. Go ahead and get this other one off. Okay, there's my nut, got that. Now I'm going to get that bolt off. The bolt out, there's that. I'm going to put this aside. Alright, then I'm going to get these off. These are 22 millimeters on each side. The nut and the bolt is 22 millimeters. These could be super tight as well. You could have, you know, 2 hands. You could try to do like this. What I did is I got my 22 millimeter wrench on there, and I took a 19, and I took the box end, and I made like a little pry bar type thing, and that's what I used to loosen it up. You know, just make sure you're pulling it the right way. What you do is you put your box end on here, on the open end on the other side, and then you pull down, and then, you know, your pressure that you're putting will hold it in place, and you know, and make the nut loose. So that's how I got mine loose. Or if you have an impact gun, that works too. That works a lot greater, or something that can knock it loose. 2 people could help. So yeah, once you get the nut off, you can just gently just tap these out. You know, don't mushroom them. Just tap them out gently. Same with the bottom. I'm going to get that off. And these bolts, usually they're just regular bolts unless they had. Oh yeah, try not to remove that if you don't have to. Just try not to mess with that one. Yeah, I'm gonna get this bottom one off, and most of the time these won't be like related to the alignment. They won't be like eccentrics, unless someone had gotten like an eccentric kit put in. But these are usually not for adjusting like any adjustments. So you just go and pull these out. All right, so I got my axle. Go ahead and try to bump that out. Don't hit it with a hammer like this. You'll mushroom the tip and cause all kinds of problems with the nut going back on. If you have a rubber mallet, you can, because it won't mess it up. But what I'm going to do, since I'm in a pinch, I got this wooden block here, and I'm gonna hit the block, and then it'll push the axle out without actually bending the metal or damaging it. So I hit it. Now this is pushed back a little bit. I'm gonna take a pry bar and just get my studs out of there. Let's go ahead and get my pry bar in here. Just kind of lift it out, and you could just wiggle it too. Also use the end of my pry bar to push this axle out too, because it's soft. It's just plastic. Alright, so I got that out. I got my axle pushed in, got those bolts loose, bottom disconnected, tie rod disconnected, so it should come off. I'm just going to wiggle it free. You know, here it is, got it out. So I'm going to go take it to the shop to get it switched out. And you might want to take out the dust ring and the clip in there that goes around the bearing before you take it over there. And I recommend a new hub, always to get a new hub, because when they press the bearing out, most of the time it damages the hub. So I'll just get a new hub as well. And so really all you need is a dust ring, a new spring clip, and a bearing and a hub. And then just bring it to the shop and let them do what they got to do. Alright, so as you can see, I got my new one here. I got a new dust ring. I got the clips already in, the bearing and the hubs in there. I got it pressed in. I would have loved to show you guys how to do it like with a tool, but I don't have the tool. So I'm gonna spray this axle just with some grease. If you have some whatever kind of grease you guys put on there to make it go in easier. Just go ahead and put my knuckle back on in the bottom. Just kind of secure the bottom, and then I put my top bolts in like that. If you took your stabilizer bar out, you just put it in. Put my tie rod in back in. You know, just kind of get everything put together. I'll put this in. What I'm gonna try to do is just put everything together loosely, and then once I got everything in, I'm gonna just put it all together. You know, tighten everything down. All right, so I'm gonna put this on here. Tighten these a little bit. These in. I recommend, if you can, like, try to get some an impact gun on there, or just go crazy tight with all these bolts and nuts, because you know this is these bolts and stuff. You know, they're supposed to be really, really tight. So make sure you get everything really tight as possible when you're putting everything together. You know, go ahead and put this on, and this on. And actually, what I'm going to do when I'm done with this job is I'm going to take it to my shop and tighten everything down with the impacts. So here's my new axle nut. I got a new axle nut. I forgot to mention a new axle nut. Go ahead and run this down. I got a little electric impact. And these can be kind of annoying going back on because the threads usually get a little roughed up when they come off. Alright, so I got that on, and then I'll punch it down with a punch to bend that spot in there to make it, you know, help it stay in place. Alright, so I put my rotor on. I had to take my caliper assembly apart to put this back on, so, you know, I put my pads in with my caliper bracket on. I'll tighten down the 17s. You know, make sure these are tight. And get this nice and tight. Alright, I got my caliper back on, put my 14s on. Okay, put this on. Okay, got those tight. Now I'm going to put my wheel speed sensor in. And this little mount, it goes a certain way. There's a little tab or like an ear on it, and it goes in the hole that's coming off the strut. See right there? Goes in like that, and then the brake line goes on top over it. You can see even the mark where the brake line goes. And then run that down. That's your 12 millimeter. We'll go ahead and put this little plastic piece back on. As you can see, that's the hole that the little tab goes into, like that. And then put this in here, and then put the 10mm back in, just like that. Alright, make sure your brake line's not twisted or your sensor line isn't twisted. Remember to put your stabilizer bar back in if you can. If you're having this trouble, try to lift up the control arm on the bottom and you might be able to put it in. I wish I didn't disconnect that because it was kind of a pain to put back in. But yeah, just try to lift up the lower control arm if you can. Just be careful doing it. And then put the wheel on. Now again, make sure everything's tight. Everything's tight, tight, tight. Put the wheel on. And that's about it. So, get your wheel on, you can lower it. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. Sorry I couldn't show you how to use the tool to press the bearing out, but